arts, entertainment and lifestyle. ChaKra TV. It never ends.
It's the CDJA, the Ceylon Disc Jockeys Association. I happen to be the inaugural president, but it's been a long journey, and I'm just ever so grateful that we now have an association that we can be proud of. And we hope as we go along that most DJs who've looked at it as a professional, as a career path, will become members of the association. You know, it's not completely with a lot of DJs who are actually performers at the moment, but we hope to bring the association there. Right, so let me just sort of recap on what we actually have achieved. The association or the DJ industry in itself, when I came over, let me talk from my perspective of the DJ thing. In 1977, when I came from the UK, Sri Lanka was virgin territory. There was nothing. There was all the bands, all the nightclubs in the sense of the Little Heart, Cat's Eye, Supper Club at the Oberoi, Cat's Eye at the Intercon. We had the Havelock Touring with the Flame Room. We had the Blue Leopard at the Taprobane or the GOH, the Grand Oriental Hotel. Then we had only the Oberoi, which was actually with a proper supper club. And the supper club was considered a dining plus a sort of a night out place. And those were like the mainstay places. And Sri Lanka had some of the best of musicians, I think, even in Asia, because most of them managed to go out of the country and perform in Afghanistan. I think in India, quite a few of them did. Jetliners in Minon, who had the Cat's Eye when I came down, finally went over to Singapore and they into Hong Kong, and they became really huge. So that was the time. A DJ was really an unknown quantity. You know, there were a few. I mean, I must say, Gabo, who was flying with Air Ceylon at that time, had his outlet in the sense of it was Riverina, I think, and then he had his console put in at the Riverina. And like Gabo would say, you know, it was a simple little truth. Machang, I needed the birds, not the music. So, but he was an accomplished musician. And he basically, supported the DJ cause, or the DJ. He felt the DJ would be a thing of the future. And he did not hesitate. I mean, Gabo being Gabo, the entrepreneur that he was, he actually, and then, which led on to an amazing array of DJs coming through Gabo, of which some of the biggest names in the country, up to date, have had their roots with Gabo. So there was also the cellar, which was at Don's Beach in Negombo. And we must never forget, I mean, somehow we tend to forget the cellar sometimes. The cellar was actually quite the authentic discotheque, because it was in the basement, and you entered through a cellar. I mean, a wine barrel. You opened the door, and it was a huge wine barrel, and you walked and went down. And we had, trying to think of the name. It'll come to me as we talk. It was all cassettes though at the cellar. But the cellar was Don's Beach was one place, because the Negombo beach at that time in the 70s was bigger than Hikadua. It was the place to actually be. So Don's Beach actually had this, and I think old Mr. Donnelly and Gay, I think, had the foresight, and then I think Andrew, who I think one of his nephews who took over the running of the place, had the cellar running. And today I think we have those two are the main things. When I came in to Sri Lanka, I got the opportunity of actually performing at the Trip discotheque, which was the authentic discotheque that was at the Oberoi, which is now the Cinnamon Grand. And that was the only discotheque that was in the country, rated, advertised and published as such. So when I came down, I mean, I took over from Raju Chandiram, who was actually working at the front office, but was the DJ for the night. So I took over from Raju, and Raju was the one who showed me the equipment and said didn't have much stuff. It was quite crazy, but that was actually the start. And then of course, Mr. Oberoi decided to close the Trip discotheque. He said it was giving him more trouble than actually giving him revenue, so it was closed. So I was the concluding DJ at the Trip, and then of course the DJ industry tottered around a little bit because with the Trip closed, we were like all over the place. But the world was opening up to the discos because Robert Stigwood came with Saturday Night Fever in 1977. And the world just went apart. And thank God It's Friday was the other one that actually came along at the same time. But Saturday Night Fever basically exposed the discotheque as a place of dancing, of fun, of happiness. Because before that, the discotheque in the Western countries was very much an underground thing. We had Studio 54 in New York, which was quite a draw. But apart from that, most of it was actually restricted to gay clubs. And some of the best music at that time were being played in these discotheques. And because they were underground, none of the chart play was there. The transition took place when people who were regularly going to a discotheque or a venue that they were used to would hear the DJ play a song, and then they would get the name and they would call a radio station and say, look, have you got this? And the radio stations didn't know from where it even came, because it was not being given or being accepted by the radio stations, because most of them were very much pop oriented and they were top 40 stations. So that evolution actually was beginning to come in when Saturday Night Fever came into play. And I was very fortunate. I was in London. I used to be a mobile DJ in London, and I used to do the nurses circuit, which was the most profitable circuit, both ways. If you wanted a friend, there was a friend, and if you wanted the money, I mean, the money was there. And 17 pounds a week, a night's booking gave me 20 pounds a week. So if I did the week and I earned 17 pounds, I did one night the nurses circuit, and at a hospital where the nurses' quarters were and where their hall was, and we got paid 20 pounds or 22 pounds, sometimes 25 pounds. And so that was my decision. And I of course worked in one of the largest hi-fi stores in London, which gave me a huge understanding of equipment and a lot of the things that went into it. So when I came down to Sri Lanka, I was very keen. I came after having started negotiations with the Intercon to open a discotheque. But when I came, Sohan, who was was a senior at college with me, and was one of my friends, very good friends. I mean, he used to come and see me when he was in London, and he used to bring down speakers and stuff for his band experiments. He saw me. He was the one who actually gave me the opening to being the DJ at the Oberoi, because he was performing at the Supper Club with Peter Prince. So there was Experiments and Peter Prince at that time at the Supper Club, and I had the privilege, because of Sohan, to be introduced to the food and beverage manager and the GM, and they took me on. So basically that is my start. Now the dream of that time, from that time, has been how nice it would be if we could have adequate DJs. Of course, by 1980 there was a whole flurry of young DJs who were coming along. There was Harpo, there was Denver Sansoni, there was Roshan, there was Romesh, that's DJ Everton, who actually was there from that time onwards. It's quite amazing actually, and he's still a practicing DJ. So there is Harpo. I mean, Harpo is today a huge name, not only locally but internationally. More famous today, not for the DJing part, but for his pizzas and his restaurants. But definitely, and the whole lot, Wendell, Panti came a little later on, but Kapila came much later on. But I mean, during that time, we also had Mega Music was, oh my forgive me, but age is catching up, it's running away. So basically, we were all there, and then all the DJs were coming in, and this was the setup. So today we are actually with a very mature industry, where the DJs are actually having more bookings especially after the COVID, where people can't really afford bands, and they're getting more bookings. DJs are much more accomplished. The equipment is amazing. I mean, we played on turntables today. If you see a turntablist, he's one of the guys who's actually been valued more than a guy who's actually on the consoles of electronic console. So from the platter or the records to today's industry of actually in today's context of it, the DJ has today become more of a good technician, and if you know your technicalities on the electronic side, you can be pretty good, as long as you have a fairly decent ear for the music. But when the machine can actually pick the beats for you, and then also can get the basic gender and the genre of music, I think the computers can do a lot of good work actually. And if you know exactly where to cut and split and do the little things, you can be a very good DJ. But if you get on the records, and if you get on the turntables, it's still a craft. It is not easy. You have to know what you're doing with your turntable. So I'm old school. I mean, I love my turntables, I love my records, and it is where the true talent of a DJ really shines. And it's quite amazing. The feel of it is different, the sound of it is different. And then I actually envy some of the DJs who actually still play and insist on playing on vinyl, on records, because it is actually the art. For Sri Lanka, the Ceylon Disc Jockeys Association, actually I have to say a very big thank you to Tariq Musafir, the Vinyl Cafe. Without Tariq, this wouldn't have happened, and that is a fact. And I might as well place it on record. And because sometimes we actually tend to ignore the people who actually do the hard work, get this right, and put it on stream, and they get left behind while somebody else takes the credit. So if today I am the current and the inaugural president of the CDJA, it is all actually with a very heartfelt thank you to Tariq. He did all of the work. He did all the legal work. He pushed us. He got us together. He said we need to do this. And even today, he is really so much the driving force of the Disc Jockeys Association. He will feel very shy about it, but I think it's only right that I place it on record that is so, and it is so. I mean, even the association, whenever we are in a lull, it's Tariq will come and say, look, what about this, what about that, and get it done. So for our inaugural entertainment that we actually have put together, Groove is in the Heart, 7th of October, is where we actually are going to have a lineup of the DJs, and we as sort of the seniors will be doing a slot more or less to actually complement the youngsters who are there. But the idea is actually to walk through the ages from 70s, 80s, 90s and up to 2000, 2010, 20 to have DJs. And unfortunately, I don't think we can fit all the DJs that we would like to fit in, but we hope that this will be a recurring night that we will actually have, and it'll become something that people can look forward to. So we look at a cross section of people that will come to enjoy the music, and there will be everybody who's actually going to be performing there is going to be from the youngsters who are currently doing their nightclubs and the circuits, and we have got 2 electronic DJs who will actually be doing guest spots as well, which is going to be tremendous, because it's one field that we cannot possibly ignore. It's one of the strongest fields in the world, and Sri Lanka has opened up to it in a great big way. But most of the electronic DJs in Sri Lanka has got more recognition out of the country than in the country, so which is actually quite remarkable. And my belief is that we have world-class DJs. That's without a doubt. If you look at the Ramleys, you look at so many around who's actually achieved so much, which is tremendous for Sri Lanka. And I hope that some of you can make the time just to drop by, just to help the DJs. We've been going through a tough time, and the DJs can do with a little bit of help. Very sincerely, that's what we want to do. It's a fundraiser for the DJs, and we are trying to give them something for Christmas. So if you can please come and be with us, we will appreciate you, and we hope we will do justice for you. But the groove will definitely be in the heart, and that's where the pulse is. Thank you.